One of the biggest debates going on in the country during the pandemic has to do with the reopening of schools. In June, grade 7s and 12s went back to school with other grades starting in the weeks that followed. However, the president announced that from the 27th of July, all public schools will close for 4 weeks as the country faces a surge in coronavirus cases. He also noted that grade 7s and grade 12s will return at an earlier date and that the 2020 academic year will extend into 2021. Talking to us today about this is Minister of Education in the Western Cape, Debbie Schafer. Minister Schafer practiced as an attorney of the Cape High Court for 12 years before starting her political career as a city councillor. She became a member of Parliament in 2009, and in 2014 she was sworn in as Minister of Education in the Western Cape. So welcome to the show, Minister Schafer. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well, thank you. And you?
I'm great. We've got some questions from young reporters for you this morning. The first one comes from Luzuko, who asks about what impact does COVID-19 have on the education system?
Of course, it's got a huge impact on every sector around the world at the moment, but particularly on education. Obviously, it's affected us firstly because schools have been closed, which has got a huge impact on learners because every bit of education they miss can have a lifelong effect on them, actually, including on their earning capacity. So that's one of the factors. The other problem, of course, is we've had to spend a whole lot more money on sanitizing and hygiene equipment, masks, and so on, which we haven't got budget for. So we've had to take it from other things which are desperately important, like infrastructure. It's going to affect our ability to build more schools, to maintain our existing schools, and so on. And of course, if there are teachers who have got comorbidities, we also then have to get other people to come in and look after their class while they're working from home. So it's affecting us in all kinds of ways, educationally as well as financially.
Emily asks, why was it decided to reopen the schools in South Africa when schools are still closed in other countries?
Well, the decision is made at a national level with the National Minister of Education, but she works together, obviously, with the President and their national cabinet, and they are being advised by medical specialists, particularly epidemiologists, very well respected epidemiologists like Professor Abdul Karim. And they are saying that the damages that are being done by schools being closed are far greater than the damages, possible risks that are there by schools being open. And they have been recommending for quite some time now that we need to reopen schools so that with the safety protocols in place, because they're saying that it's actually quite safe to do so. And since we have opened in the Western Cape, we've been keeping track of the infection rates in schools. And there certainly does not appear to be a link between increased infections because of schools being open compared to just in the communities that surround the schools. So they're saying that many learners depend on their food that they get at school every day. They don't get fed otherwise. As I said, educational aspects are really worrying. The more you lose out on your education, the more it affects you later on. Also affects learners psychologically. And the reality is that in many communities, even if schools are closed, the learners are not observing the distancing requirements. They're not wearing masks. They're running around communities playing with each other. So they're saying that it's actually very, very often safer in school than out of school.
And then obviously schools are going to be closed again for the next few weeks. So what are your thoughts on this?
The schools aren't closed completely. The matrics are returning to school on the 3rd of August, and the regulations have now been published. The grade 7s will return on the 11th of August, and the majority of the other grades by the 24th of August, one or two still on the 31st. So they're not closed completely at all, and they also have to be open for the National School Nutrition Program. So schools that are doing feeding, part of the feeding scheme, must also make that available to people who qualify for it.
Minister Schafer, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been great having you on to shed some light on the whole school situation at the moment.
Thank you very much. It's been good to be with you.
You are listening to RX Radio.
For and by children.
RX Radio. RX Radio rocks.